And say, okay, this is what we're going to do, you know, add a few transitions or whatever. So that was a really great compliment that what I did, you know, really influenced what was in the final picture.
Now that we know the pathway of what you've done, you've talked about these things. What exactly do you do? What is a music editor?
That's a good question. Let me get the book and see if I can figure out
Yeah, right. Yeah.
what that is. A music editor is, in a way, the music wrangler for any particular project. We can come on a project as early as pre-production. If there's going to be music involved on playback, we would be involved with making those playback tracks and click tracks that would go along with what they're doing on set. And then sometimes being on set to watch lip sync and see how it is, and making suggestions to the director as to what works and what doesn't. More often than not, we come on when they're almost done with production, and I work first with the picture editor on putting together a temp music track. And this is generally for, let's talk feature films for the moment, because when the editor has got all of the dailies in and stuff, and the director's done with shooting, he's going to want to come in and look at the cut, but also the editor wants it to feel as much like a regular movie as possible. So I go through and I'm given the scenes by the editor, and they say, now put music in here where you think it's appropriate, using my background in both composition and how to use music dramatically, and just all the things that I've learned over the years of doing it. And so I'll put together this temporary music track, which scores the picture in sort of the similar way that a composer will. And then that goes out to preview. We see how that's working. We make changes. Eventually the composer will come on, and I will sort of lay out in a set of spotting notes where we put music up to this point. And then we'll sit down with the filmmaker, the editor, myself, and the composer, and go through the entire film and decide where the final music is going to go. This is both underscore that the composer is going to write, and songs as well, because what I also do besides the underscore temping is cutting songs that they want to put in, because so many projects have pop songs or source music in bars and things like that. So I have to cut those pieces of music to fit properly within the scenes. Once we spot it, then the composer goes off and begins writing the music. And as they write music, they'll usually produce demos of it, just stuff out of their studio. I'll get those demos, I'll put them into my Pro Tools system, which is what I cut on. It's a synchronizing for music and sound along with the picture. And then I will preview that for the filmmakers. And then they can make comments on how it's working and not working, where changes need to be made. And I can relate all that back to the composer so that they know what changes they need to make. And the music editor really is, at this point, the liaison, sometimes translator, between the filmmaker and the composer, because going through the temp process, we've determined this works, this doesn't work, I like this sound, I like that instrument, etc. I can let the composer know those things that we've figured out and listed in the spotting notes. And then as we're going through the demo process, I can help the filmmaker understand what the composer is trying to do, and ways that maybe the composer has gone a different direction or slightly different. Because quite often what can happen is the filmmaker works so hard on the temp score, they develop what's called temp love. They love it because they've made it work exactly like they wanted, and it's had the best music that they could possibly have. And once the composer brings their own voice to it, it can be a little bit difficult for them sometimes to adapt to the new stuff. So I can help say, well, see how it does this, like yours did, but it brings this to it. So we go through that process. Hopefully, eventually, all of the music gets approved. And then if the composer is going to do a live recording session, I will often then put together the click tracks for the musicians to listen to as they are recording the music, so they stay in the proper tempo and in sync with the picture. Then once the music is recorded and mixed by the music mixer, I get all of that and I load it all into Pro Tools. And I also have got the final cuts on the songs and that kind of stuff. I take all of that to a mixing stage where it is balanced and mixed with the dialogue and the sound effects that those departments have been working on. And then we come up with the final mix for the project. Then we do a playback for everybody to make sure it's good, take final notes, final changes. And then the last thing I have to do is the licensing cue sheet, where I list all of the music that's used in the project, because that's how the composer eventually can get residuals from reuse of the score and broadcast and that sort of stuff. And then I do it all again.
It sounds to me like your mix of a dramatic sense with composition and technology knowledge is it creates this scenario where you're really like a glue between the creators of the film, the music side of the film, and making sure both are there's a synergy between what's happening. I mean, it sounds like you have a little bit of a psychologist part of this too, and making sure that there's an understanding and that it's all working smoothly between the music team and the filmmaking team, I guess you could say.
That's absolutely right. That's why I said sometimes I'm the liaison or the translator, being the diplomat in figuring out how we can balance the music and sound effects, because the sound effects, they've worked hard and they've got hundreds of tracks of sound that they just want to play really loud all the time. And they're, the music obviously has to do that. Dialogue's king. That is the one that has to be the most prevalent. So it's figuring out that interplay and that dance between those things that the mixers are doing, but also there are times when the supervising sound editor or myself as a music editor need to step in and say, hey, we can maybe at this moment we can just swell the music a little bit, or sound effects are much more important here, and I do that. And I'm not precious about music all the time. I know that it's balance and that the music is there to serve the process. So I feel I can be very diplomatic about that as well.
There's a big influence on your part of what the final product of the music is going to be like because of the fact that you're a part of the temp track. Do you ever have times where the connection between what you've helped create with the temp track and what a composer wants to bring to it just doesn't seem to work?
Yes, and ultimately the composer is the one who's going to win out and that sort of stuff. And I've had several occasions when partway through when a composer is writing after they've worked on the temp score, that I've gotten sort of a pseudo angry call from them saying, how am I ever supposed to match or beat what you did here? Because it's everything, it's perfect. What am I going to bring to it? I hate you. Goodbye. Click. Knowing it's somewhat in jest, that sort of thing. So it's a nice compliment when they do that sort of thing. And some of them love the temp because it takes the guesswork out. And other of them feel that it's restricting. The other thing that a composer has to, or a music editor has to do on the dubbing stage is when we record the music, especially if it's a big orchestral thing and a big scoring stage, you play it, everybody loves it, it's big orchestra, it all hits, it's beautiful. And then when they take it to the dubbing stage, sometimes once they bring in all of those other sound elements, it's not working as well. So the director will turn to me and say, fix it, make it better, do something different. I don't like that cue anymore. It's my job then to take pieces of music from other parts of the film and cut together a new piece of music that will replace the one that he doesn't like. 101 Dalmatians, the one with Glenn Close. We'd gotten about 3/4 of the way through scoring it, and the production company wanted to preview it for more theater owners to try to get more theaters. But they wanted all of Michael's music in it. They didn't want any temp. So what I had to do was, again, track the last quarter or so of the film with music from the earlier parts. So we did that, we dubbed it, we did, got it good. Michael saw it and said, pretty much, for the most part, okay, we'll do that. So he thought that what I did was good enough for the final, but it needed to be re-recorded. And he would literally take his scores and he would cut them to what I had done and paste them together or tape them together and give them to the copyist and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Add a few transitions or whatever. So that was a really great compliment that what I did, really influenced what was in the final picture.
Thank you for watching. For more great videos, subscribe to the Maestro Fox YouTube channel. To learn more about the Maestro, visit StephenAllenFox.com.